And so once you have your font chosen and picked out, now it's time to choose where it will go in your video, right? What's going to be the most ideal time to give the viewer the information that you're trying to convey? So we're going to take a look at an example of an interview video that I shot, and we're going to see where I decided to put the font and why I chose to do that. So let's check it out.
What is legacy? Well, legacy is a mark that you leave behind of evolution, a revolution. When you leave this earth, it's much bigger than anything tangible or physical. Legacy is leaving an imprint on this earth for people to keep following and keep progressing. It's sometimes complicated to leave a legacy in this world because you got to be willing to take doubt. So that's why a legacy is so deep, because not a lot of people are willing to step out the line and stick their chest on and say, I'm standing for something. And a legacy is something you stood for and you never strayed away from. I'm gonna leave legacy.
So, a perfect example, you can see when it really felt like the perfect time to give the audience that information of who this person was, right? If I chose to put that at the beginning of the video when he started talking, it really wouldn't have necessarily have fit in, because instead of who he was, it was more important about what he was saying and the B-roll, all the city and time-lapse footage that we were showing. Now, once we got through that really kind of cool 20-second montage and we really had an understanding of how cool and amazing this person actually is, then we dropped into the shots where we had real face-to-face time with that character. So that's when we chose in this situation to really give our audience that information of who our character is. And so now that you guys have a little bit deeper of an understanding of this kind of title card assets that we can use to drop over our footage to give the audience that information that they need, now it's time to talk about motion graphics. Now, a motion graphic is essentially a glorified, much more highly produced title card, right? It's a much higher production value title card where generally there's motion. It's not just blank text on the screen, there's actual movement. A lot of time there's depth and different textures, either in the foreground, over the text itself, or in the background. There's definitely coloring. It's not just plain white font. And there's sometimes can be lighting effects, transition effects. So motion graphic really, in a nutshell, is just a much more dynamic and well put together title card. The purpose is still the same. You're giving the audience the information that they need at a specific moment, because as soon as they think a certain thought of, oh, who is this person or what is this location, as the editor, you have to have their consciousness. What are they going to be aware of? What are going to be their questions, right? This is all the kind of things that we're really getting into. Where are they looking in the screen? What do they want to see next? What should they be feeling, right? So the font, the text, the motion graphic is just another tool and asset that we can use to give the proper information at the proper time. Now, the cool thing about motion graphics that I really like is that we can use different textures, different colors, different movement. So the motion graphic is really a kind of animated cinematography tool that we can use to, just like in the actual shooting steps that we talked about, are we doing a push in? Are we doing kind of a tracking shot, right? Are we doing a tilt up, a tilt down? What's the energy of the scene? How much light is going to be in the scene? Is it a kind of daytime motion graphic, very bright and very well lit? Is it more of a darker kind of motion graphic? All these ideas and these decisions that you make as the editor is going to affect the viewer in the same exact way as if we were shooting all that information in front of the lens. So when we're really choosing a motion graphic, it's best, just like the song choice, to really know what the overall emotion of that video is, right? It's not like we're going to have very inspirational vocals from our subject that's speaking with a very dark and gloomy song, It's the same exact thing on the other way. We're not going to have a very, very dark and very slow and emotional scene with it suddenly cuts into a very bright, energetic, over the top motion graphic, right? This is that cohesive filmmaking look that we're really going to use with these motion graphics to elevate the production value. Because that's one of the biggest things about the motion graphic over the actual just plain text or font. When we have plain text or font on the screen, yes, it's a simple way to exchange information from the editor to the viewer. But when we choose to create or buy or use a motion graphic, it really elevates the production value and the level of quality to the overall video. So one of my favorite things to do is simply go to videohive.net, and they didn't pay me to say that, no, not at all. But it's the best way that I found to start with a template that you can buy online for just $8, $9, $10, and then bring that template into After Effects or whatever editing software that you do use so you can have an awesome, highly produced motion graphic. Now let's look at a few different examples of using actual motion graphic instead of plain text. So with this video that we just watched, we saw the plain text on the screen to give the information of who this person was and what football team they play for. Now, later in the interview, we actually cut to the motion graphic of the actual series itself. Let's take a look. And so as you can see, this is the kind of dynamic movement, lighting, color, all the different effects that really are influencing the way the viewer feels. Now, if we just decided to use plain text, we would have a totally different vibe. Let's see what that looks like.
And legacy is something you stood for and you never strayed away from. I believe legacy.
The production, overall production quality went way down when we just use the plain white font. It's kind of similar to the difference between having cinematic camera movement and well-lit scene compared to just no lighting and then just having the camera sitting on a tripod, right? It's static, there's no movement, there's no dynamics that's happening. So really, the motion graphic is a great way in post-production to just add a little bit more of a high-end production quality to your videos. Alrighty, and so next up, after we've mastered our title cards, our motion graphics, all these different editing techniques, almost one of the very final steps is going to be the color correction and the color grading process. Now, the two differences between these two processes are color correction. You are fixing or correcting the colors in your scenes, right? So for some shots, it may be too yellow. Some shots may be too blue, too dark, too light, not enough contrast. All these different elements that are very aesthetic that we need to be fixed. All these different aesthetic elements that need to be fixed before we actually do the color grading. Now, the color grading is where you go in and you add the stylistic look to your film or video. Now, this can be having a very HDR look in your film, or adding LUTs to your film, or really just kind of boosting maybe the greens or boosting the blues, bringing up the shadows, doing all the different things that adds a specific stylistic look to that video. So with color correction, our main goal is to, once we have all of our edits made in the timeline, now we go out and equalize all the colors that we're seeing on the shots that we use. Now, what we want to do is have a smooth, cohesive look from shot to shot. We don't want to have some shots really dark, the next shot's really white, the next shot's very unsaturated. We want to equalize all the shots in our timeline so that we have a clean slate to work with when we go into the color grading process. So color correction is incredibly important because what we're doing is bringing all of our shots to the same aesthetic level. The tone, the saturation, the contrast, all of these really important elements that are affecting the way that your viewer feels. Once that's done, then we go in and create the really cool stylistic look that we're going for. So let's take a look at some of these clips that we're going to color correct. So right now, all of these clips are currently not color corrected. You can see that it's pretty gray and there's really not a lot of contrast or saturation in the shots, but overall, the exposure on all of the images are really similar. I'm going to go to the very first clip that we have, color correct that shot, and then paste that filter onto the following clip, balance it out, and then so on and so on and so on. So let's take a look. Going to add a color correction filter to the clip. Going to bring up the contrast and the saturation. A little bit of the temperature. Definitely some sharpness. And this clip is looking pretty green in really the tan areas is a little bit green, so I'm going to bring up the tint just a little bit to kind of balance out that green. So now we have a more of a neutral shot. Now we always want to have in the color correcting process true whites and true blacks where we have a clean slate. Sometimes when we're shooting, depending on the white balance that we shot on or the lighting and color situations of the scene, we can have kind of a blue tinted white or a green tinted white or very tan whites. Now we want to balance all of that out in the color correction process so that we go into the grading process and we want to stylize this footage. We have plenty of stuff to work with. So this is looking decent for now. I could do a lot more work on this, but for this purpose, I'm going to kind of run through these a little bit quicker. Now I'm going to copy that filter, move to the next frame or the next clip, and paste that. So this is already looking much, much, much better. And we see this clip, I'm going to do the same thing. Go here. Now you can see that since the exposure from this shot a lot darker, from this shot a lot lighter, when I copy and pasted the previous color corrected filter, it's not really working for this shot. You can see it's a little bit yellow and it's a little bit green as well. So I'm going to do a little bit more work on this one. So let's brighten this. All right, that's okay for now. Paste this filter. So as I mentioned, the exposure overall is pretty similar in all these clips. So once I balanced out that first clip that we started with, I was able to copy and paste that same filter to really level out the rest of the clips. Now, depending on a lot of factors, if light was changing throughout the day, if the shoot goes from day to night, there's going to be a lot of different individual color correction that you're going to need to be doing. But once you get to a point where all the levels of each clip is equalized, then we can go into the color grading process. Let's check that out. So I'm going to take a look and see if any of these built-in looks have a cool kind of style for this video. No, a little too HDR. Let's see. So I like this Kodak one. I'm just going to turn down this intensity a little bit. And then now I'm going to apply that same exact look to the rest of these shots. And so you can see there's a huge difference between the color corrected version and the uncolor corrected version. So we could see that between the uncolor corrected and ungraded footage to the graded and color corrected footage that we worked on, there's a huge difference in the response that you get, right? If you're looking at very bland, boring, unsaturated footage that's not stylized, that's the exact feeling that the viewer is going to have, that there's not a wholeness to the footage. If it's very dull and dreary, like looking outside on a very overcast and cloudy day, it puts you in a certain state. There's a certain vibe that's there. So if we have amazing footage with amazing cinematography and lighting with not very well color corrected or graded footage, we're not going to have that high end production value and feeling that we're looking for. So seeing this, each color that we choose to bring up or bring down, whether that's bringing up the whites and making it more brighter, or crushing the blacks and making it more dark and moody, these are all things and ideas that we have to purposefully do as a filmmaker and as an editor to consciously change the way the viewer is feeling. So in this, second to last step of the post-production process, the color grading is incredibly important. If we want to have that kind of nighttime, cool, darker feeling, then we're going to want to have a little bit of a blue tint to our footage. If we want to have super warm, fuzzy, good feelings, we're going to have much more tan and brighter footage, right? So having that always in mind as an editor is essential in this post-production process. Wow. And so once that final step is complete, we're ready to export the video that we created. And obviously, as always, just like with the resolution that you're shooting at, you always want to be exporting. I can't believe we're here at the end. This is like, I'm sad. Like, I don't want to leave you guys. But we want to we want to do the exporting at the highest resolution possible, right? So if we shot our video at 1080p, we're going to export at 1080p resolution. If we shot our video 720p, 4K, 2.7, whatever it is, we always want the highest quality coming out of our editing software so that when people's beautiful eyes can see your beautiful video, they're always seeing it at the highest quality possible. And so to wrap up this final post-production part of this course, as an editor, we are just like a chef, giving the viewer exactly what they need at the exact right moment. The shot that they need, the angle that they need, the song selection that they need, the color, the choice of everything that they are needing to fully absorb and integrate the information that you are conveying them as the filmmaker. And so to have the most impactful final product, it's always a good idea that before you export it, finalize it, and send it out to be seen by the world, you always get other people's opinions on the rough edits that you're creating, right? Getting other people's opinions, their ideas, their really non-biased, objective perspective on what you're seeing. Because as the editor, like we've mentioned, when we're sitting here for hours working on the same sequence, we really become blind and deaf to what we're seeing and what we're hearing because we've seen it so many times. It almost is a memory that's playing back. Instead of really seeing what's raw in front of you for the first time, you really become biased to certain shots. You know where the cuts are going to be. You know where to look into the frame. You know what to feel and what to see. So we need to send out these edits to other people, get their opinion, and really take a break and step away, which can be extremely difficult as, perfectionists and as artists that we are. But really taking the time to step away and also exporting a version for yourself and looking at it on a different screen that's not your editing computer or laptop. Send it to your phone, send it to your email, and look at it in a different environment. I promise you that doing this simple technique, you will see different things that you're either missing or that needs to be added or changed into your video that you wouldn't have seen looking at it in your editing software. And by doing this, we kind of take ourselves out of this little, work bubble that we have here and really get a fresh perspective and fresh eyes on the actual project. And really, another thing that I like to do in these situations is kind of take a mental note or really write down in my notes on my iPhone the timestamps of the video where those certain changes and maybe alterations need to take place. So, watching the video outside of your work bubble on whatever kind of extra screen that you have to get fresh eyes, a fresh perspective on what the edit actually looks like, integrating other people's opinions and their ideas of what needs to change and be altered, and then taking timestamps down when you watch your own edit so that you can get the best final product possible. We did it! Yes! Wow. All right. The final part of this course, it's over. Man, I'm kind of sad, honestly, because you have felt truly like one of my students, and it's been such an amazing experience to transfer and give all this information, wisdom, all these keys and principles to grow as a filmmaker, but not only just a filmmaker, but really to grow as a person. And so it's been just such an amazing, amazing project for me to create this course with all these techniques that I've learned and then give those techniques to you, the filmmaker, so that you can grow on your own path and on your own journey. And so I don't want the teaching to stop now. I don't want the learning to stop. I would love to keep in contact with you and get updates on how you've progressed, what questions you might have about things in the course, what questions you might have about things that weren't even in the course. I would love, love, love to keep in contact. So I will put my information on the screen, my email address, my social media, everything so that you guys can stay in contact and updated on everything that I'm doing and everything that you're doing. So with that said, I really want to get this course and all these teachings out to as many people as possible. So if you have someone in mind, a friend, family member, maybe they would possibly benefit from this course as much as you did, please feel free to share all the information that you learned and this course as well. The more people that are learning from this, the better, right? I've really hoped that I've elevated you guys and allowed for you to save time, money, your own, expenditures, everything in life, because we don't have to go and get into debt to learn, right? We don't have to spend 20, 30, 40, $50,000 on film school anymore and be in debt for the rest of our lives. We have so many tools at our disposal that are much more practical and readily available for the normal average person. So please share this course, share this information. Thank you so much for becoming a part of this course. And I truly hope that I've helped you and your career in your life and becoming an incredible video creator. Thank you.